Mom, my wife, the kids, and my mother-in-law are moving in here. They are cramped in their apartment. There is no point in complaining. We've already decided everything. There is no discussion. Michael walked into my house that Tuesday like he always did, without knocking, as if it were his. I was making coffee when he dropped that bomb, and it hit me like a dry blow to the chest. I am 70 years old. I spent 40 of them working as a housekeeper to be able to buy this house. And now my own son tells me that other people are going to live here without even asking me if I agree. But what he did not know was that while he spoke with such arrogance, I was already calculating. I was already thinking. This time, Emily was not going to stay silent, accepting what was comfortable for everyone except me. I stood there with the coffee pot in my hand, watching him walk through my living room as if it belonged to him, as if all those years cleaning other people's houses to have mine meant nothing, as if my opinion were an insignificant detail within a decision he had already made without me. "Are you listening to me?" he said. "Linda is already packing. The kids, Leo and Lily, are excited because they are going to have more space to play, and Sarah can no longer be alone. She is very old and we cannot pay someone to take care of her. Here there is plenty of room, and you live alone. Sarah, my daughter-in-law's mother, a woman I barely knew, was now going to live in my house, in my refuge, in the place where I had finally found peace after becoming a widow. After raising 5 children, after a whole lifetime giving and giving without receiving anything in return. A stranger was going to occupy the guest room, the space that cost me so much to furnish with my own savings. "Michael," I said, keeping my voice calm, although something inside me was breaking. "This is my house. I bought it. I pay the expenses, and it is in my name." He laughed. He laughed as if I had said something funny, as if a woman my age had no right to have an opinion about her own life. That laugh hurt more than any scream, more than any insult. It was a laugh of contempt, of superiority, of someone who believes they can decide for others without consequences. "Oh, Mom, don't be so dramatic. It is temporary, just until we find something bigger. Besides, having company will do you good. At your age, you should not live alone. And if something happens to you and nobody notices," there it was again. That phrase my children used when they wanted to manipulate me, as if turning 70 had made me incapable, as if my life experience was worth nothing against the hasty decisions of a 40-year-old man who could not even offer a decent place to his own family, as if I had not demonstrated for 7 decades that I knew how to take care of myself perfectly well. The truth is that I was better alone than when I was married. I could watch my favorite shows without anyone changing the channel. I could cook whatever I wanted. I could invite my friends whenever I felt like it. I had learned to use a smartphone. I had my group chat with the neighbors. I walked in the park every morning. I did not need anyone to take care of me. "When do you plan to bring them?" I asked. He did not notice the change in my tone. He did not realize that I was no longer the same submissive woman as before. "This Saturday. Linda has everything ready. The kids are going to use your sewing room. You will see. You will like having them here. Sarah will stay in the guest room, and for now, we will sleep in the living room until we settle in." For now. What an obvious lie. I knew Linda too well to know that once she set foot in this house, she would never leave. I knew Michael well enough to know that his temporary solutions always ended up becoming permanent burdens that I had to endure in silence. I had already seen him do the same with his older sister. He needed to stay a few days and ended up living there for 2 years. My sewing room. That space I had converted into my personal sanctuary, where my sewing machine was, my fabrics, my projects, where I took refuge when I needed peace, was now going to become the bedroom of 2 children who were not to blame for anything, but who were going to destroy my tranquility, while he continued explaining how he was going to reorganize my house, how my spaces would be distributed, how I would have to adapt to his new normal. I felt something deep move inside me. It was not anger. It was not sadness. It was something stronger, determination, a force I had not felt for years that I thought I had lost with age. I had been the mother who always said yes, the one who sacrificed for everyone, the one who put the needs of others before her own, the one who worked double shifts so her children could study, the one who spent years without buying new clothes to save and be able to buy this house. But at my 70 years, in my own house and with my own rules, I was no longer going to be that woman. "Okay, Michael," I said finally, and I saw how he relaxed, believing he had won. "Bring them on Saturday." He smiled, satisfied. He kissed me on the forehead as if I were an obedient girl. And he left, leaving behind that trail of cheap cologne he always uses. He left thinking he had solved his problems at my expense as always. He left believing his mother remained the same as always. The one who does not complain. The one who always finds a way to make everything work. But he did not know that I, Emily Johnson, already had other plans. He did not know that while he celebrated his victory, I was already plotting my strategy. He did not know that this time. For the first time in 70 years, I was going to play by my own rules. He did not know he had awakened something in me that had been asleep for too long. I grabbed my phone and dialed Susan's number, my friend from the walking group. I needed to talk to someone who understood what it means to fight for your own space after giving everything for others for so many years. "Susan, it is Emily. Can you come early tomorrow? I need to talk to you about something very important." That night, I did not sleep. I stayed awake thinking about every detail, about every move I had to make. Michael thought he knew me, that he knew exactly how I was going to react. He thought I was still the same submissive woman as always, the one who accepts everything without protesting. But the surprise of his life awaited him. This time, Emily Johnson was going to show what she was made of. The next day, I woke up at 5:30 in the morning, like every day since I retired. Unlike what Michael believes, my life is not boring or empty. I have a routine I like. That gives me peace, that I built for myself after decades of living for others. First, I checked my phone. I had messages in the neighbors group chat, where Susan, Karen, and other ladies send good morning wishes, recipes, and neighborhood gossip. I also had notifications from Facebook, with photos of my grandkids who live far away, the ones who do appreciate me and send me videos telling me they love me. I got up, I showered and put on my pink tracksuit, the one I bought last month when I went shopping with Susan. I put on a little makeup. As my granddaughter taught me on a video call, I like looking good to feel good. At 70, I learned that taking care of oneself is not vanity, it is self-respect. I prepared my breakfast, oatmeal with fruit, black coffee and my vitamin for my bones. I put on my favorite music, those oldies that transport me to when I was young. I ate quietly at my table, looking out the window at the small backyard garden. It is not much, but it is mine. At 7 sharp, Susan arrived and rang the doorbell. She does respect my house, not like those who enter as if it were conquered territory. My friend is 68 years old. She's a widow like me and lives alone in her apartment for 5 years. We met in the park walking group, and since then we are inseparable. "What happened, Emily? Yesterday you sounded very worried. I told her everything while pouring coffee. I explained how Michael had arrived with his decision already made, how he had treated me as if I were a child with no right to have an opinion on my own life." Susan listened with that attention only true friends have, those who have gone through similar things, and you told him it was okay, that he should bring them on Saturday. She asked surprised. She expected screams, fights, tears. But I am no longer that woman who explodes emotionally. I have learned there are smarter ways to handle things. Emily, are you sure you know what Linda is like? Once she settles here, she is never going to leave. And with Sarah and the kids, your house is going to become chaos. Exactly. Susan understood the situation better than my own son. She knew what it costs to maintain a home, what it means to have privacy, how important it is to keep your own space after a lifetime serving others. "That is why I have to act fast," I told her, and I saw her eyes light up with curiosity. I explained my plan. It was not something improvised. It was something I had been considering for months, since Michael started insinuating how big my house was for a single person, since Linda started commenting on how nice it would be to live in a house instead of an apartment. "Emily, are you serious? Are you really going to do that?" "Susan, I am 70 years old. I have worked all my life to have something of my own. I am not going to let anyone, not even my son, take away the peace that cost me so much to get." My friend smiled, that smile of complicity that only exists between women who have learned to value themselves after years of putting themselves last. The smile of someone who understands that at a certain age, there's no time to please those who do not value you. What do you need me to do? That question confirmed why Susan was my best friend. She did not judge me. She did not tell me I was exaggerating. She did not ask me to think about Michael's feelings. She simply offered to help. That is how true friendships between mature women are. We support each other without asking too many questions. For now, I just need you to come with me to some places this week, and if anyone asks, you know nothing. We had breakfast calmly while planning the details. Susan told me her daughter had tried something similar last year, suggesting she move to a smaller house so it would be easier to take care of her, as if she needed someone to take care of her, as if they were not the ones who were always needing financial help. It is incredible how our own children sometimes treat us worse than strangers, she said while we washed the cups, as if the fact of having given birth to them gave them the right to decide for us for the rest of our lives. Exactly. That was the reality many women our age lived in silence. Adult children making decisions for their mothers without consulting them, treating us like a burden or a resource available to solve their problems, using maternal love and guilt as manipulation tools. After breakfast, we went to the park for our daily walk. Our group met at 9 in the morning. We were 8 women, between 60 and 75 years old, who had discovered the pleasure of exercising and socializing without anyone telling us what to do. "Good morning, Emily. How are you today?" Mrs. Higgins asked me, a 73-year-old woman who had been widowed 2 years ago and radiated incredible energy. "Very well, Mrs. Higgins. Ready to walk and enjoy this beautiful day." While we walked along the park path, listening to the others talk about their grandkids, about their favorite shows and weekend plans, I realized how much I would miss all that if Michael got his way. A house full of people meant not being able to go out when I wanted, having to be aware of others, losing my freedom. During the walk, Karen told us her son had suggested she sell her car because she was too old to drive. We were all indignant. Karen drives perfectly, has all her papers in order, and is more careful than many young people. They simply do not understand that we are still people with our own lives, said Lisa, a 65-year-old woman who worked part-time at a boutique. They think turning 60 is synonymous with incompetence. We all nodded. It was a subject that united us. The struggle to maintain our autonomy in a society that constantly tried to snatch it away. The struggle to demonstrate that aging did not mean being useless or dependent. After the walk, Susan and I went to the mall. I needed to buy some things and also wanted to walk around my favorite stores. We ate at a nice restaurant, we took selfies I uploaded to Facebook, and we each bought a new blouse. You know what, Emily? I think your decision is the correct one. At our age, we no longer have time to live pleasing others. She was right. At 70, I could not afford the luxury of wasting what life I had left being unhappy just to please people who did not value my sacrifices. I had already given enough. I had been the dedicated mother, the submissive wife, the responsible employee. Now it was time to be Emily. That afternoon, upon returning home, I sat in the living room and looked at every corner. My television, where I watched my favorite shows, My armchair, where I read in peace. My table, where I had breakfast watching the garden. All that was going to change if I let Michael get his way, but I was not going to let him. This time, Emily was going to fight for what was hers. Wednesday morning, while I drank my coffee and checked my group chat messages, the doorbell rang. It was Linda. My daughter-in-law arrived with a smile that did not fool me. That calculated smile she used when she wanted something from me. "Good morning, Mom. How are you, Mom?" That is what she called me when she needed something. When she needed nothing, she barely greeted me. She brought a box of donuts, as if a cheap gift was enough to soften what was coming. "Good morning, Linda. Come in. Do you want coffee?" "Oh, yes, thanks. I came to talk to you about the move on Saturday. I wanted you to know we are going to be very careful with your things. Don't worry about anything. My things." As if I were a guest in my own house. As if she were the new owner, reassuring me about the care of my belongings. But I remained calm. I smiled and poured her coffee in my nicest cup. "So, do you have everything ready?" I asked, sitting opposite her at the dining table. "Yes, almost everything is packed. The kids are super excited. Leo asks me every day when we are coming here. And Lily already chose which bed she wants in the sewing room. The sewing room, my sacred space, where I had my machine, my fabrics ordered by color, my patterns, my half-finished projects, where I spent afternoons creating beautiful things for me and for my friends. Now it was going to become the room of 2 children who were going to mess everything up. And my mom, Sarah, is very grateful. She continued. She can no longer live alone. She forgets things. Sometimes she does not remember to take her medicines. Here she will be better cared for. There was the emotional manipulation, presenting the invasion of my house as an act of charity, as if I were responsible for the well-being of a woman I barely knew, as if refusing made me a cruel and heartless person. "And you two, where are you going to sleep?" I asked. "For now, in the living room, on a sofa bed we are going to bring. But don't worry, we are going to be very tidy. And Michael already spoke with a contact to see if we get something bigger soon." Soon. Another lie. They had been living in that 2-bedroom apartment for 3 years because they could not afford anything better. Michael worked driving for a rideshare app and Linda in a clothing store, both with unstable incomes. They were not going to get anything bigger. They were going to stay in my house indefinitely. "Mom, I also wanted to tell you we are going to help with expenses." "Don't worry about that. Help with expenses. How generous. Help pay for the electricity, the water and the gas of a house that was not theirs, as if they were doing me a favor. As if 4 more people living here were not going to double or triple all the bills." "How much do you plan to contribute?" I asked. The question took her completely by surprise. She did not expect me to be so direct. She shifted uncomfortably in the chair and looked down. "Well, we thought we would contribute what we can. You know, right now everything is difficult for everyone." Of course, what we can. That meant giving the minimum, when they could, if they could. Meanwhile, I would be left with all the expenses of maintaining a family of 5 people. "Linda, can I ask you something?" "Yes, of course. Did you 2 ask me if I wanted you to come live here?" The question threw her off completely. She got nervous, started playing with the napkin, and avoided looking at me. It was evident they had never considered my opinion important in a decision that was going to change my life completely. "Well, Mom, it is just that Michael said you agreed, that you thought it was a good idea to have company. Did he tell you that?" "Yes. He told me you were very happy with the idea, that you felt very alone here." Lies. Michael had lied to her so she would not feel guilty about the invasion. He had told her I was happy with the situation so she could sleep peacefully knowing they were using me. "Linda, I am not alone. I have my friends, my activities, my routine. This house is not too big for me. It is perfect for me." I saw how her expression changed. For the first time since she arrived, her security crumbled. She realized that maybe things were not as Michael had told her. But Michael said, Michael said many things that are not true. He told you he asked me if I agreed. He told you we talked about the conditions. He told you I accepted voluntarily. Each phrase was like a slap of reality. Linda was starting to realize she had been an accomplice to something that was not right, that she had participated in a decision made without considering my feelings. Mom, We did not think of you that way. You did not think of me at all. You thought about solving your problem and decided I was the solution. She remained silent. For the first time in 5 years of being my daughter-in-law, Linda did not know what to say. For the first time, she understood they might have made a mistake. So, you don't want us to come. What do you think, Linda? Would you like 4 people to arrive at your house without asking you if you agreed? She did not answer me. She just stayed there, crumpling the napkin between her fingers, processing reality. Probably for the first time, she put herself in my place and understood how unfair it all was. But we already packed everything. We already spoke with the landlord. We already told the kids. And there was the real reason they could not back down. It was not that they did not understand they were wrong, but that they had already burned all bridges. They had made irreversible decisions based on an imposition that should never have happened. Linda, those are problems you created when you decided for me without consulting me. I am not responsible for the consequences of decisions I did not make. She got up from the table. She was no longer smiling. There was no sweetness in her voice. Now she was annoyed because I was not cooperating with her plans as expected. Michael told me you were going to accept. Michael was wrong. So what are we going to do? Now we have nowhere to live. That is something you two have to solve. I did not create this problem. She left without saying goodbye, leaving the donuts on the table as a reminder of her failed attempt at manipulation. She left angry, but also worried. For the first time, she understood that Emily was not the complacent older woman they had taken for granted. When the door closed, I sat in the armchair and took a deep breath. It had been the first battle, and I had won it. Linda already knew things were not going to go as expected. Now I had to prepare for when Michael found out his perfect plan was starting to crumble. I took out my phone and sent a message to Susan. Linda came and left with a face you can't imagine. The response came immediately. "Are you okay? Do you want me to come over? I am perfect. Tomorrow we continue with the plan." For the first time in a long time, I felt powerful. I felt like Emily, not like Michael's mother nor Linda's mother-in-law. I felt like a woman who knew exactly what she was worth and who was not going to let anyone decide for her. Thursday night, Michael arrived furious. He did not ring the doorbell. He did not greet. He entered straight away, with that angry face he put on when things did not go his way. I was watching my favorite soap opera calmly in the armchair when he burst into the living room like a hurricane. "What did you say to Linda?" His tone was aggressive, demanding. It was not the voice of a worried son. It was the voice of a man used to the women in his life obeying without questioning. But I was no longer the same as before. I told her the truth, that you never asked me if I agreed with you coming to live here. "Oh, Mom, seriously, are you going to be difficult now? We have everything ready. We already spoke with the landlord. The kids already know we are moving. And now you come out with that you don't want to." Difficult. As if defending my right to decide about my own house was a tantrum of an older woman, as if my feelings were an annoying hindrance in his perfect plans. "Michael, sit down. Let's talk like adults." "I don't have time to talk. Tomorrow I work early, and Saturday is moving day. I just need you to cooperate. I am not going to cooperate with something I never accepted." He stood in the middle of the living room looking at me as if I had gone crazy. As if a 70-year-old woman had no right to change her mind or defend her own interests. "What is wrong with you? You were never so selfish before." Selfish. There was the word he always used when I did not do what he wanted, as if taking care of myself was a character defect. Selfish for not wanting them to invade my house. selfish for wanting to keep my peace and tranquility. You live alone in a 3-bedroom house. We are cramped in a tiny apartment. Any normal mother would be happy to help her son. Any normal mother. Another manipulation tactic, as if there were a manual on how a mother should behave, as if I were failing my obligations, as if being a mother meant sacrificing my well-being until the day I died. Michael, do you have any idea how much it cost me to buy this house? Yes, I know you worked very hard. But what is the point of having a big house if you don't share it with your family? It serves to be able to live in peace after 70 years, giving everything for others. That answer threw him off. He did not expect me to be so direct, that I put my needs before his. He expected tears, pleas, guilt. He did not expect determination. Mom, we are your family. Family is supposed to help each other. When was the last time you helped me, Michael? The question left him mute. He stood there searching his memory for some recent moment where he had done something for me without me asking. He could not find any, because it did not exist. I come to see you often. You come when you need something, when you have money problems, when you need me to babysit the kids, when you want me to cook for some gathering. When was the last time you came just to ask me how I was? He did not answer, because he knew I was right. Our visits always had an agenda. There was always something he needed from me. Besides, I continued, if we were really family, as you say, you would have asked my opinion before making this decision, but I thought you would agree. You have always been there for us. Exactly. I have always been there. I have always said yes. I have always put your needs before mine. Don't you think it is time someone thought about Emily Johnson? He saw something different in my eyes, something he had not seen before, a firmness he did not expect to find, a woman who could no longer be manipulated with guilt or emotional blackmail. But Mom, then what are we going to do? We no longer have the apartment. That is your problem. I did not make that decision. You cannot be so cruel. Cruel. Another word loaded with manipulation, as if defending myself was cruelty, as if setting boundaries was evil. Do you know what is cruel, Michael? Arriving at your mother's house and telling her other people are going to live there without asking her if she agrees. That is cruel. Finally. He sat in the armchair, but not to talk. He sat because he needed to think how to solve the problem he himself had created. Linda is crying. The kids already packed their toys. Sarah already sold some of her furniture. Each phrase was an attempt to make me feel guilty. Every detail was emotional pressure for me to give in, but it no longer worked with me. All that happened because you took decisions based on something you never confirmed with me. Are you really not going to let us come? You are not coming. The answer was firm, definitive. There was no room to negotiate, nor to beg. For the first time in my life, I had put a clear limit on my son. He got up furious, walking around the living room like a caged animal, running his hands through his hair. He was desperate because his perfect plan had collapsed. What if we pay rent? What if we contribute to all expenses? No. What if it is only temporary, just while we find something? No. What if we promise not to bother you, to respect your space? No. Each no was like a stab to his pride. He was not used to women saying no to him, least of all his mother. I don't understand what is wrong with you. You weren't like this before. Before I was a woman who did not know her worth. Now I am a woman who does. He left, slamming the door, yelling that I was selfish, that he could not believe his own mother was so insensitive. He left promising he would return to make me see reason, but it was already too late. Emily Johnson had made a decision, and there was no turning back. That night, I went to sleep feeling calm for the first time in days. I had confronted Michael, and I had won. I had set boundaries and defended them. I had defended myself. For the first time in a long time, I felt truly free. Friday morning, I woke up with a strange sensation in my chest. It was not nervousness. It was not fear. It was excitement. For the first time in years, I felt I had total control of my decisions, and that gave me an energy I had not felt in a long time. After my morning routine, I called Susan, ready for the most important day. She asked with that complicity only true friends have. More than ready. Pick me up in an hour. The plan I had been preparing for months was finally going to be executed. It was not something improvised. It was not an emotional reaction. It was a strategic decision I had considered since Michael started insinuating my house was too big for a single person. Susan arrived punctual in her white sedan, the same car her son had also suggested she sell because she was too old to drive. Like me, she had completely ignored that absurd suggestion. Nervous. She asked me when I got in the car. Not at all. On the contrary, I feel more secure than ever. Our first destination was the bank. During years, I had saved in an account Michael did not know about. An account where I deposited money every month since I retired. It was not a huge amount, but it was enough for what I had planned. "Good morning, Mrs. Johnson." The manager greeted us upon arrival. "How can we help you today? I need to make a transfer. A large transfer." The woman checked my account on the computer and nodded. During the last 5 years, I had been very disciplined with my savings. I lived on my pension and saved everything I earned sewing clothes for the neighborhood ladies. "How much do you need to transfer?" I told her the exact amount. The manager raised an eyebrow, surprised, but asked no questions. It was my money, my decision. "Are you completely sure of this operation, Mrs. Johnson?" "Completely sure." Susan squeezed my hand while we waited for the transfer to process. She knew what that step meant for me. She knew there was no turning back. "Very well, Mrs. Johnson. Your transfer has been processed successfully." We left the bank and went directly to our second stop, the real estate agency, Mr. Harrison, a man of a little over 50 who had been helping me during the last weeks, received us with a smile. "Mrs. Johnson, how are you? Ready to sign?" "More than ready, Mr. Harrison." I sat in front of his desk while he prepared all the documentation. Susan stayed by my side, witnessing one of the most important moments of my life. "Are you absolutely sure of this decision?" he asked. "Once we sign, there is no way to cancel the operation." "Mr. Harrison, I am 70 years old. I have made very few truly important decisions in my life because I was always thinking of others. This is my decision, and I am completely sure. I signed every document with a steady hand. My name, Emily Johnson, appeared on every page as the sole person responsible for that operation. There were no co-owners, no guarantors, no one else involved. Everything was mine, perfect. You will have the keys to your new property in 24 hours. New property. The words sounded like music to my ears. A place nobody knew, that nobody could claim. That was completely mine. "And the other operation?" I asked. "It is also in process. The buyers are very enthusiastic. It is a beautiful house in an excellent location. We had no problem finding interested parties." Susan looked at me with admiration. She knew how difficult it had been to make that decision, how brave it was to do something like that at 70. We left the real estate agency and went to a nice downtown restaurant to eat. I needed to celebrate. I needed to feel I was doing something special for myself. "Emily, how do you feel?" "I feel free." "Susan, for the first time in my life, I feel completely free." While we ate, we went over every detail of the plan. Everything was calculated. Everything was planned. There was no room for improvisation nor to back down. And if Michael gets really aggressive when he finds out, let him get as aggressive as he wants. It is no longer my problem. That answer surprised even me. During years, I had lived worried about my children's reactions, trying to avoid conflicts, sacrificing my own peace to maintain family harmony, but no more. "When are you going to tell them?" "Tomorrow, when they arrive with all their things." Susan smiled. She knew it was going to be a memorable moment, a moment where Emily Johnson would finally show them what she was made of. After eating, we went to my house so I could pack some important things. Not much, just the essentials. The clothes I liked most, my documents, some photos of my grandkids, my jewelry, my sewing machine. Doesn't it make you sad to leave this house? Susan asked me while folding my favorite dresses. This house was my dream for 40 years, but now that I have it, I realized the dream was not the house. So the dream was to have a place of one's own, where nobody could decide for me. Exactly. The house had been the symbol of my independence, but it was not independence itself. Independence was the ability to decide, to choose, to say no when necessary. While I was packing, my phone rang. It was Michael. "Mom, we have to talk. We already spoke yesterday. No, we have to talk, seriously. Come over here or I go over there." There is nothing more to talk about Michael. "Mom, please, the kids are crying. Linda did not sleep all night. Sarah already sold her furniture. You cannot do this to us, do this to them." As if I were responsible for the problem they themselves had created with their unilateral decisions. Michael. "What you do with your lives is not my responsibility. You are my mother. Mothers are supposed to help their children, and I did for 45 years. I already did my part." I hung up the phone. It made no sense to follow a conversation that only went in circles. Michael still believed he could manipulate me with guilt, but that Emily no longer existed. Susan helped me take the boxes to her car. They were not many things, but they were the important ones. The rest would stay with the house. "Where are we going to keep all this?" "At your house, if you don't mind. Just for tonight." "Of course I don't mind. I love being part of your revolution." Revolution. What a perfect word, because that was exactly what I was doing, revolutionizing my own life. That night, I had dinner at Susan's house. We cooked together. We watched a movie. We talked about our plans for the coming weeks, for the first time in a long time. I was not worried about what others needed from me. "Tomorrow is going to be a very interesting day," Susan told me before going to sleep. "Tomorrow is going to be the first day of the rest of my life," and she was right. Saturday arrived with a bright sun that seemed to illuminate the path to my new life. I got up early. I dressed with special care and returned to my house to wait for the show that was about to begin. At 9 in the morning, the first moving truck arrived. Michael was driving, followed by Linda in her car with the kids, and Sarah. Behind them came another vehicle with more relatives who had come to help with the move. I saw them get out with the energy of someone sure everything is going to go according to plan. Michael started giving instructions to the movers as if he were the owner of the house. Linda organized the boxes by priority. The kids ran excited toward the door. I went out to receive them with a calm that even surprised me. There were no nerves or doubts, only a deep tranquility of someone who knows exactly what she is going to do. "Good morning," I said from the entrance of the house. "Good morning, Mom. We are here. The guys are going to start bringing things down. Can you open the door wide so everything fits?" "That will not be necessary, Michael." He froze. The movers stood waiting for instructions. Linda looked up from the boxes she was arranging. "What do you mean it will not be necessary? You are not bringing anything into this house." The silence that followed was deafening. Everyone stood motionless, processing what I had just said. It was as if I had detonated a bomb in the middle of their perfectly planned operation. "Mom, what are you talking about? The truck is already here. We brought all our things, and they are going to take them back." Michael approached me with that face he put on when he thought he could intimidate me, but I was no longer the same woman. "You are crazy. Do you know how much the truck cost us? Everything we had to do to organize this. That is not my problem, Michael. I never asked you to organize anything." Linda approached with the kids holding hands. Leo and Lily looked at me confused, without understanding why their grandma was not letting them into what was supposed to be their new house. "Mom, what is happening? The kids want to see their rooms. There are no rooms for you here, Linda." "Sarah." who had remained silent inside the car until that moment, got out leaning on her cane. She was a 75-year-old woman, thin and frail, who evidently did not understand what was happening. "Where is my room?" she asked with a weak voice. "Here there is no room for you, ma'am." I responded with respect, but with firmness. It was as if I had slapped the whole family. Michael turned red with anger. Linda started to cry. The kids hugged their mother, scared. "Mom, you cannot do this to us. We have nowhere to go. That is a problem you created when you made decisions without consulting me. But we are your family. A family that does not respect me is not family. They are people who use me." The movers were still standing by the truck waiting for orders. The situation was becoming uncomfortable for everyone. "Sir," one of them asked Michael, "do we unload the things or not?" "Of course you unload. She is my mother. She will get over her tantrum. I will not get over anything," I said, addressing the workers directly. "This is my house. I pay the mortgage, and I decide who enters. You are not going to unload anything." One of the movers, an older man who evidently had seen similar family situations, nodded with understanding. "I am sorry, sir. But if the lady says it is her house and does not want us to unload, we cannot do anything." Michael completely lost control. He started screaming that I was crazy, that he could not believe his own mother was so cruel, that he was going to prove I was not in my right mind. "I am going to speak with a lawyer. I am going to prove you are senile and cannot make decisions. Perfect, Michael, do it." Meanwhile, "Get your truck out of my driveway." Linda approached me with eyes full of tears, carrying Lily, who had already started crying. "Mom, please think of the kids. They are not to blame. Where are we going to sleep tonight?" It was the last attempt at emotional manipulation, using the kids as a shield, as if I were responsible for the irresponsible decisions of their parents. The kids are not to blame, but neither am I. Their parents should have thought of them before making decisions without a backup plan. "You cannot be so ruthless," Michael shouted. "Ruthless." "Do you know what is ruthless, Michael? Arriving at your mother's house and telling her other people are going to live there without asking her if she agrees. That is ruthless." The argument was attracting the attention of the neighbors. Mrs. Higgins next door had come out to water her plants, but it was evident she was listening to everything. Mr. Jones peeked out the window without hiding his curiosity. "Mom, please. Let's talk inside. You are making a scene. There is nothing to talk about inside because you are not going inside." At that moment, Susan arrived in her car. She had planned to come to give me moral support in that difficult moment. She got out of the car and walked towards us with the dignity that characterized women of our generation. "Good morning, Emily. Is everything okay?" "Everything is perfectly fine, Susan. They were just leaving." Michael looked at her with contempt. He had always thought my friends put strange ideas in my head, as if I were not capable of thinking for myself. "You also have the blame for this," he told Susan. "Surely you put these crazy ideas in her head." "Young man," Susan responded with impressive calm, "your mother does not need anyone to put ideas in her head. She is an intelligent woman who knows perfectly well what she is doing. This does not stay like this." Michael shouted while taking his family back to the cars. "I am going to return with a lawyer. I am going to prove you are not in your right mind. When you return with your lawyer." I shouted at him as he walked away. "Make sure to bring also the documents that prove this house is yours, because I have all mine." They left just as they had arrived, but with the boxes still on the truck and with a humiliation they had never experienced before. They left knowing that Emily Johnson was no longer the woman they thought they knew. When the last car disappeared around the corner, Susan hugged me. "How do you feel?" "I feel free, Susan." For the first time in 70 years, I felt completely free. And it was true. I had confronted my family, I had set boundaries, I had defended my rights. I had demonstrated that Emily Johnson was much stronger than everyone thought. But that was just the beginning. The best was yet to come. During the entire Saturday afternoon, my phone did not stop ringing. Calls from Michael, messages from Linda, even calls from relatives I did not even know had my number, all with the same objective, making me change my mind. The first call was from my sister Karen, who lives in another state and who evidently had received a very distorted version of events. "Emily, is it true you kicked Michael and his family out? What is wrong with you? That boy is desperate." Karen, I did not kick anyone out. I simply did not allow them to enter my house without my consent. But he is your son, Emily. Children can always count on their mothers. Children can count on their mothers, but they cannot decide for them. My sister did not understand. For her, as for many women of our generation, being a mother meant being eternally available to solve children's problems regardless of the personal cost. Where are they going to live? Where are the kids going to sleep tonight? That is something Michael has to solve. He created this problem. Emily, don't be so hard. Help them. Even if it is only for a while. No, Karen, I already helped enough for 45 years. I hung up and turned off the phone. It made no sense to listen to the same arguments again and again. The whole family had decided I was the villain of the story, the cruel mother who had abandoned her son in his moment of need. Susan stayed with me all afternoon. We cooked together. We watched television. We talked about everything except the family drama. I needed normality. I needed to remember there was a world beyond Michael's problems. But at 7 in the evening, everything changed. They arrived again, but this time they did not come alone. Michael brought Uncle John, his godfather, a 60-year-old man who had always acted as a mediator in family conflicts. "Good evening, Emily." John greeted me with that deliberate voice he used when he wanted to sound wise. "Can we come in to talk?" "Good evening, John. Sure. Come in." They entered my living room as if it were a diplomatic negotiation. John sat in the main armchair. Michael remained standing, clearly upset, but trying to control himself in front of his godfather. "Emily, Michael told me what happened. I think there has been a misunderstanding." "There is no misunderstanding, John. Michael decided his family was going to live in my house without consulting me. I decided they would not. But Emily, understand the situation. The boy is desperate. He no longer has the apartment. He already spent money on the moving truck. The kids have nowhere to sleep. All those are consequences of decisions he made without consulting me." John sighed as if dealing with a whimsical child. It was the same condescending attitude I had seen all my life. Older men trying to explain to a woman what her duty was. "Emily, I know you feel offended because they didn't ask you. But now we have to think of practical solutions. The practical solution is for them to find another place to live. And in the meantime, you are going to leave them on the street. I am not leaving them anywhere. They put themselves in this situation. Michael could no longer contain himself and exploded. Enough already. You cannot be so selfish. We are your family. Michael." John interrupted him. "Let me talk to your mother." He turned to me with that condescension I detested so much. "Emily, I understand you are upset, but think of the kids. Think of Sarah, who is an older woman who needs care. Are you really going to let them sleep in the car?" The emotional manipulation now came from someone with more experience, someone who knew exactly what buttons to press to make me feel guilt. "John, neither the kids nor Sarah are sleeping in the car. They are at Linda's parents' house. Michael is exaggerating the situation to make me feel bad." He remained silent. He did not expect me to be so well informed about the real situation. Besides, I continued, if they were really so worried about the kids and Sarah, they would have planned better before making irreversible decisions. "Emily, don't be resentful. The boy made a mistake, but now he is sorry." I looked at Michael. There was not a trace of regret on his face, only frustration because his plans had not worked. "Are you sorry, Michael? Do you regret not consulting me?" "Mom, I thought you would agree." "That is not the question. I ask you if you regret not consulting me." He stayed quiet. He could not admit he had been wrong, because that would mean accepting I had rights he had ignored. "The problem is not if you thought I would agree," I said. "The problem is you made a decision about my life without including me in the conversation." John tried another strategy. "Emily, what do you need to reconsider? Do you want them to pay rent? Do you want to set specific rules?" "I want nothing, John. I just want them to respect my decision. And what is your final decision? That they are not going to live in my house." Michael got up furious. "Okay, I understood. You prefer to live alone in your big house than help your own family. I prefer to live with dignity than be a slave in my own house. Nobody was going to make you a slave. No. Who was going to cook for 5 more people? Who was going to clean up after you? Who was going to take care of Sarah when she got sick? Who was going to pay for the electricity, water, and gas that 5 more people would consume?" He did not answer, because he knew perfectly well the answer was me. Emily Johnson was going to carry all the weight while they fixed their lives. "Besides," I added, "if it really were something temporary, as you say, they could rent a small place for a few months, but we know it is not temporary. We know that once they entered here, they would never leave." John realized he had lost. There was no argument he could use to convince me, because all my points were valid. "Emily, I hope you do not regret this decision. I have regretted for years not making decisions. I am not going to regret starting to do it now." They left calmer than they had arrived. John, used to resolving family conflicts with his patriarchal wisdom, had been defeated by a 70-year-old woman who simply knew her worth. Michael left without saying goodbye. But before leaving, he yelled at me from the door, "Don't forget that someday you are going to be old and sick, and you are going to need someone to take care of you when that day arrives." I responded without losing my calm, "I will hire someone to take care of me with respect, not someone who sees me as a burden." That night, after Susan left, I sat in the living room and I felt a peace I had not experienced in years. I had resisted all attempts at manipulation. I had remained firm despite family pressure. Emily Johnson had won the most important battle of her life, but the war was not over yet. Sunday, I had breakfast early because I had an important appointment. At 10 in the morning, Mr. Harrison arrived with a folder full of documents and a smile that immediately reassured me. "Good morning, Mrs. Johnson. I come to hand you the keys to your new property." The keys. Finally, I had in my hands the keys to my new life. A smaller house, but modern. In a quiet subdivision where nobody knew me, where nobody had expectations about what Emily Johnson should or should not do. And here are the documents for the sale of this property. "Everything went perfectly, ma'am. The buyers are very happy. They already deposited the full amount." I signed the last papers with a mixture of nostalgia and excitement. That house had been my dream for 40 years, but now it had become a battlefield. It was time to let it go. "When do you need to hand over the property?" "Today, if possible." "The buyers want to move in this same week." Perfect. There was no time for regrets or doubts. Susan arrived with her car just as the lawyer was leaving. We had agreed to pick up my things and officially move to my new life, ready for the big change. She asked me while we loaded the last boxes, "More than ready." "Susan, I feel like I am starting a new life." While we loaded my belongings into the car, Mrs. Higgins, my lifelong neighbor, approached. She had been a good neighbor, respectful and discreet, but it was evident she felt curiosity about everything that had happened. "Emily, is it true you are leaving?" "Yes, Mrs. Higgins, I am moving today." And all this was because of the fight with Michael. It was not a fight. It was my decision. She looked at me with that expression I knew well, that of someone who does not understand how a mother can choose her own well-being over the needs of her children. Doesn't it hurt you to leave the house where you lived so many years? It hurts me more having spent so many years without truly living." She did not understand my answer, but she wished me luck and said goodbye with that formality people use when they do not approve of your decisions but dare not say it to your face. We were finishing loading when Michael arrived. He came alone, without Linda or the kids, with a face that mixed anger and desperation. "What is happening here? Why are you loading your things? I am moving." "Michael, moving where?" "To my new house." He stood on the sidewalk as if he had received a physical blow. He did not expect it. He thought that after a few days of my tantrum, I would give in and open the doors of the house to them. "You bought another house. With what money?" "With my money, Michael. The money I saved for years. And this house, I sold it." The impact was immediate. He went pale, started to shake, and had to lean on the car not to fall. "You sold the house. You sold our house." "I sold my house, Michael. It was never ours. But it was the family house. There we were going to raise the grandkids. It was our inheritance." There was the truth. He did not care about my well-being. He did not worry about my happiness. It hurt him to lose the inheritance he already took for granted. "Your inheritance is the education I gave you, the values I taught you, the opportunities I gave you so you would become a man. I bought this house for me. Mom, you cannot do this. Undo the sale. Talk to the buyers. It is already too late, Michael. The documents are signed. The money is in the bank." He sat on the sidewalk and started crying like a child. He was not crying for me. He was not crying for our relationship. He was crying for the money he had lost, for the house he was no longer going to inherit. Where are we going to live? Where are my children going to sleep? That is something you have to solve like any other adult man. Susan closed the trunk and signaled me that it was time to go. There was nothing more to do there. "Michael, I am leaving. I hope someday you understand that what I did was not to hurt you, but to respect myself. You cannot leave like this. I am your son, precisely because you are my son. I hope someday you learn to value the women in your life instead of using them." I got into Susan's car without looking back. In the rearview mirror, I saw Michael running behind the car, yelling at me to come back, that I could not do this to him, but it was already done. Emily Johnson had closed a chapter of her life and was opening a completely new one. "How do you feel?" Susan asked me while we advanced towards my new house. "I feel reborn." The new house was perfect. Smaller than the previous one, but with everything I needed. 2 bedrooms, one for me and another for guests, a cozy living room, a modern kitchen, a small but pretty garden. "It is beautiful, Emily. You are going to be very happy here." She was right. For the first time in my life, I had a space completely mine, without ties, without obligations to anyone else. That afternoon, while I arranged my things in my new home, the phone rang. It was a number I did not recognize. "Mrs. Emily Johnson." "Yes, speaking." "This is attorney Mark Thompson speaking. I represent your son, Michael Johnson. My client wants to challenge the sale of the property located on Rosewood Street." So Michael had carried out his threat. He had hired a lawyer to try to take away my right to sell my own house. "Counselor, that property was mine. I have all the documents to prove it." "I understand, ma'am. Maybe we could meet to talk about a possible solution. There is nothing to discuss." "Counselor, I exercised my legal right to sell a property that was completely mine." "Ma'am, my client alleges the sale was made in a state of emotional distress and without considering family rights." I could not help laughing. Michael was trying to prove I was crazy or that the family had rights over my property. "Counselor, I am 70 years old. I do not have dementia. I retain all my mental faculties and the property was solely in my name. Your client has no legal right over that house. Would you be willing to meet with me to talk about compensation? There is nothing to discuss. Good day." I hung up and sat in my new armchair to reflect on everything that had happened. Michael was not going to give up easily. He would keep pressuring, threatening, trying to make me feel guilt. But I no longer cared. Emily Johnson had made the most important decision of her life, and there was no turning back. 3 months after moving to my new house, my life had changed completely. I woke up every morning without the weight of others' expectations, without the pressure of having to please anyone. My morning routine remained the same. A quiet breakfast, looking at my small garden, checking messages from the group chat with my friends. But now everything had a different flavor. It was the flavor of true freedom. Susan came to visit me every Tuesday and Thursday. We had formed a sisterhood of mature women who supported each other. I had also met my new neighbors, Claudia, a 72-year-old widow who taught knitting classes, and Ophelia, a 68-year-old woman who had opened a small baking business from her home. "You know what I like most about living here?" I told Susan, while we drank coffee in my new kitchen. "What?" "That here nobody knows me as Michael's mom, nor as Linda's mother-in-law. Here I am, simply Emily Johnson." My new identity had flourished in ways I did not expect. I enrolled in a painting workshop at the community center. I rediscovered my passion for sewing, but now creating things for me. I learned to use my smartphone better, and even opened an Instagram account where I uploaded photos of my projects. The money from the sale of my old house not only allowed me to buy the new property, but also to have a financial cushion that gave me peace of mind. For the first time in my life, I did not depend financially on anyone, and that sensation was intoxicating. "Have you heard anything from Michael?" Susan asked me. "His lawyer called me a couple of more times, but I no longer answer. Karen told me they finally found a bigger apartment to rent. Life had taken its course for everyone. Michael had to face the consequences of his impulsive decisions, but finally he had solved his housing situation without needing to invade his mother's house. Do you miss them?" It was a question I asked myself often. Did I miss my family? Did I miss the noise of the kids, the conversations at the table, the feeling of being needed? I missed the idea I had of them. I answered after thinking about it. I miss the illusion that they valued me, but I do not miss feeling used. It was the most honest truth I could give. During years, I had confused being useful with being loved, being needed with being respected. One Sunday afternoon, while I watered the plants in my garden, the doorbell rang. It was Leo, my 8-year-old grandson, and Lily, my 6-year-old granddaughter. They came alone, which surprised me. "Grandma," Leo shouted, running towards me. "Hello, my loves. What are you doing here? Where are your parents?" "Dad brought us, but he stayed in the car," Lily explained. "He told us to tell you he misses you a lot. Emotional manipulation using the kids." Michael had reached that level of desperation. "And do you miss me?" I asked, getting down to their level. "Yes, Grandma. Why don't you live in the big house anymore?" "Because I bought a prettier house, where I can be happier." "Can we see it?" "Of course." I let them in and showed them every corner of my new home. Their eyes lit up when they saw my perfectly tidy sewing room, with colored fabrics and my machine ready. It is very pretty. "Can you teach us to sew?" "Of course. When your parents give me permission, you can come on weekends and I teach you." We played for an hour. I made them their favorite cookies. We watched cartoons. We took selfies I uploaded to my Instagram. They were genuine moments, without pressure, without a hidden agenda. When my phone rang, I knew it was Michael asking for the kids. "Mom, are the kids there?" "Yes, they are here." "Very happy, by the way. We can come by for them. You can come, but only to pick them up. I am not going to argue with you in front of them." 10 minutes later, Michael and Linda arrived. They looked different, more tired, more serious. The economic pressure of sustaining a family without external support showed clearly on their faces. "Hello, Mom." Michael greeted me with a softer voice than the last time. "Hello, Michael. The kids have behaved very well." Linda barely greeted me. She was still resentful for everything that had happened, probably blaming me for the difficulties they had faced. "Mom, can we talk a moment?" "I already told you I'm not going to discuss anything in front of the kids. It is not to discuss. I just want." I want to ask for forgiveness. Definitely, I did not expect that. Michael, my proud and stubborn son, was apologizing to me. Kids, go play a little in the garden. When they went out, Michael sat in my new armchair and took a deep breath. Mom, these last months have been very difficult, not only for the money, but because I realized I never asked you what you wanted. And now you understand. Yes. Now I understand I made decisions about your life without considering your feelings. And for that, I ask for forgiveness. It was progress. It was not a complete apology. He did not mention the lack of respect, the manipulation, nor the legal threats, but it was a first step. And what do you expect from me, Michael? I expect nothing, Mom. I just wanted you to know I was wrong. Linda remained silent, but I saw something in her look that could be understanding. Maybe she, too, had understood that mothers are not unlimited resources to solve others' problems. Michael, I am not your enemy. I never was. But I am no longer going to be the woman who says yes to everything without anyone asking her how she feels. I understand. Do you really understand? Or are you just telling me what you think I want to hear? He thought before answering. That gave me hope. For the first time, he was truly reflecting on my words. I think I understand. And I think it scares me to accept that my mom has the right to live her own life. It was the most honest declaration I had heard from him in years. The kids can come visit me whenever they want. They can stay on weekends if you need time for yourselves. But they will come as dear guests, not as an obligation of mine, and only with one condition, that you respect me as you would respect any person who is helping you. He nodded with a humility I had not seen in him since he was a child. When they left, I stayed in the living room looking at the photos I had taken with my grandkids. They were beautiful, innocent, full of life. It was not their fault their parents had made the decisions they made, but now the relationship was going to be on my terms. I was no longer going to be the grandmother who said yes to everything for fear of losing her grandkids' affection. I was going to be the grandmother who loved them enough to teach them that older women also deserve respect. That night before sleeping, I looked at myself in the mirror of my new room. I saw a 70-year-old woman who had learned to value herself. I saw Emily Johnson, free and owner of her own decisions. I went to bed knowing that the next day I would wake up in my house, with my schedule, with my plans, with my life. Finally, after so many years, I was the one who decided who to care for, and the first person I had decided to care for was myself. Thanks for staying until the end and listening to my story here on Grace's Heart Stories. If something of what I lived touched your heart, I invite you to like and subscribe to the channel. Tell me in the comments, if you were in my place, would you have done the same? And tell me also, where are you listening to me from today?